Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this press conference. I'm Anthony Rowley, former president of the club, and I'm very happy to welcome our two guests today, Mr. Taniguchi-san on my immediate right, Makoto Taniguchi, who is the president of the Research Institute for Japan-China Relations, and a member of the AIIB Joint Research Group. And to his right is Mr. Xing-guang, who's director of the Research Institute for Japan-China Relations and is also a member of the AIIB Joint Research Group. Timing of this press conference couldn't be better, really, because, as you know, last week Britain announced that it would become the first Western country to join the AIIB, somewhat controversially, and now many others, including France, Germany and Italy, have also said that they will join, South Africa and so on and so forth. In fact, I believe there's now a total of 31 countries who are going to join. What is very interesting about today is that even people like myself who've been fairly close to this story, I've never heard, I must say before, of the AIIB Joint Research Group. What was it? Well, it's a group of 5 academics, basically academics, 5 of them from Japan, 5 from China, although the China members also operate in Japan. They're mainly financial experts, all sorts of people with diplomatic experience, and they are working out a case, if you like, for Japan joining the AIIB, as I understand it, and they'll be presenting their findings to the relevant ministries in Japan on March 20th. Yes. So they are the experts. Let me not say any more. Mr. Taniguchi-san will speak first and lay out basically what the AIIB is and what it's all about and what it's doing, what it's hoping to achieve. And after that, we'll take questions. So, Taniguchi-san.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rowley. I am very pleased to revisit this, the Foreign Correspondent Club in Tokyo. I was a member of this club many years ago when I was young and active, but I'm getting old, but still I have some ambition to do something for the betterment of our relationship with China. Japan and China relationship is very important for peaceful development and peaceful settlement of problems which Asian countries are facing. Japan is very responsible for this problem. In this case, this idea of establishing the AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, this idea is very, very important for Asian countries. In this case, in order to improve our relationship politically, Japan should support the bank. As you know, when China proposed this, originally United States and Japan are opposing, and the European countries are much more positive. And recently, United Kingdom expressed the intention of joining. And in this case, and United States as well, on the 27th of February, Mr. Sherman, Undersecretary of State, also welcomed the initiative taken by China. It means only Japan, among the so-called developed economies, only Japan is opposing or not hesitant to join. In this case, it's very strange for me. Japan is an Asian country, and when China is proposing this, it's very strange. Other European countries are supportive. Only Japan is not supporting. Very strange sort of image world is receiving from this Japan's opposition. Actually, Mr. Lin and myself, we visited the finance ministry and the foreign office, my old sort of office, and we talked about this importance of Japan's role in joining this, the research committee, which all members who are supportive of this China's initiative, AIIB, Japan should join the research committee at first, and then Japan should express our own view in order to make China's initiative much more worldwide acceptable and much more, constructive. But China, quite frankly, is not very experienced in the international monetary problems. I was in OECD. Majority of OECD countries, we invited China to train them to be on monetary issues. When I was in OECD as Deputy Secretary General, I was in charge of communicating with China. The first thing which China learned from OECD is the monetary issues and collecting data and controlling the fluctuation of monetary issues. So in this case, my experience in OECD was very helpful. So in order to support our relationship between China and Japan, this initiative taken by China is very important for the future of Japan's relationship with China. And now, as you know, although our relationship between China and Japan is improving a little bit, not as bad as about 2 or 3 months ago, China is getting a more generous attitude toward Japan, including Senkaku Island and others. So it's a good chance for us to take initiative of China's, initiative such as the establishment of AIIB. That is one of the issues which Japan should concentrate on. And we are appealing to a Japanese government to take more positive attitude to support this China initiative. That's what I want to say at the beginning.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ling, would you like to take
皆さん、こんにちは。どうもありがとうございます。たくさんの方が来てくださいまして。今の日中関係をなんとか打開したいと。で、そのためにはですね、アジアインフラ投資銀行に日本が今年中に参加しなくちゃいけない。そういう、発案をいたしまして、そして日本の方5人、それから中国の在日の経済の学者5人で発足し、この提案を書き、そして、昨日手渡しました。これは今、谷口先生が大体話されました。
Hello, thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity and for so many of you taking your time to attend. As you know, we are facing a very difficult situation between Japan and China now. The situation is quite unfavorable, and we felt we had to do something to try to get out of this current situation. And therefore, we believe very strongly, or the members of our group feel very, very strongly that it is important for Japan to show its desire to join the AIIB sometime during this year. That was the beginning point of our coming together. As was explained by Mr. Taniguchi, our membership is composed of 5 Japanese academics and 5 Chinese academics who are living and working in Japan, primarily working in the financial or economic field. So we did put together these proposals, and we hand-delivered them to several ministries yesterday.
で、これからもう一つ、日中関係を改善するためにはですね、この70周年というこの節目の年にですね、それぞれの記念活動に双方の政府の代表が参加して、新しい日中友好関係の発足の元年にすべきだというふうに思っています。
We also feel very, very strongly that timing is everything. We believe that this year, as you know, is a very, very special year. It is the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. As a result, there will be many, many commemorative or memorial events that will be held in various countries throughout the world. And we believe that when we consider the relationship between Japan and China, this is an opportune time where representatives from the other country should always try to attend the memorial or celebratory events in the other country for this special year. We believe, in other words, that by having this kind of mutual participation in different events this year, this can be a very special year. It can be the first year of a new era of amicable relations between these two countries.
そこで昨年の暮れに私は日本のアジアインフラ投資銀行の早期加入とそれから70周年の記念活動をですね、日中両方の政府が共同でやる、これが一番望ましいけれども、それができないならば政府の代表が参加できるように、ドイツとフランスのような関係に今年持っていくように努力すべきだと、この2つを突破口にすべきだと、一つは記念活動、一つはアジアインフラ投資銀行加入。
As a result, specifically, what I did was at the end of last year, I announced two proposals. One was that Japan, again, as I mentioned earlier, should make a decision to join the AIIB this year as quickly as possible. And also the second point is, as I mentioned earlier, that we should take advantage of this special 70th anniversary year to repair the relationship between our two nations. Ideally, it would be best if representatives of the Japanese and Chinese governments could to collaborate and create a joint memorial event. But if this seems difficult, at the very least, as I said earlier, representatives of the other government can always or should always try to attend different events that are being held in the other country. In other words, we want to use this opportunity to repair relationships, to start a new era of friendship between these two nations. We want eventually to see a Japan-China relationship that is very similar to the German-French relationship.
で、これを中国国内で私がそういう提案をしますとですね、両先生、その提案の可能性はどうですかと、私は 5% か 10% だと言ったんです。しかし今は私は可能性が大変大きいと思っています。それはアメリカのシャーマンさんの2月27日の、講演です。
I used to talk about this quite often since the end of last year in China, and whenever I did so, I was asked by the Chinese listeners, Professor, exactly how much of a percentage do you think what is the percentage that you think this kind of proposal that you have made can be realized? And I said the possibility of something like this being realized is probably only 5 to 10%. Having said this, however, as was mentioned earlier, there have been new developments. Specifically, on February 27th of this year, Ms. Sherman, who is the Undersecretary of State for the United States, gave a public speech in which she announced a change in U.S. policy towards the AIIB. As a result, I believe that the possibility of this kind of collaborative effort to create a new era of amicable relations between these two countries is much higher than before.
シャーマン次官は講演の中で、今年中国と日本と韓国の首脳をワシントンにお呼びするのは、米中日韓の協調体制の枠組みを作るためであるということをこの講演の中で言いました。
In the speech that this Undersecretary Ms. Sherman gave, she said publicly that one of the reasons that the leaders, the heads of state, the leaders of Japan, China, and South Korea had been invited to Washington this year is that because the United States wanted to lay the groundwork for creating a framework that would include the United States, Japan, China, and South Korea.
これは米日韓が協力を強化して中国を牽制するという発想ではない。
I would like to explain, however, when I talk about a collaborative framework between these various countries, it is not the kind of framework that some people might think, which is a collaborative relationship between between Japan, the United States, and South Korea, which would somehow try to act as a deterrent to China. That is not what she was saying.
その中で同時にアジアインフラ投資銀行を、条件付きながら歓迎すると。しかも後で分かったことなんですけれども、1月7日にすでにシーツ財務次官が、そういう発言をしているということです。それを発言したけれどもあまりインパクトがなかったので、シャーマンさんがもう一度アナウンスしたということです。財務省
And not only that, as was mentioned repeatedly, she also, in this speech, stated very publicly that the United States had changed its position and was fundamentally in support of the establishment of the AIIB, of course, with different conditions that it follow. In fact, and we researched this later and discovered that actually her statements were not the first such comments by a U.S. government official. On January 7th of this year, Mr. Sheets, who is the Undersecretary of the Treasury Department, had made a similar statement about the U.S. basically fundamentally supporting the establishment of the AIIB. However, his statements did not gain much coverage or not gained much recognition. So Ms. Sherman apparently took this opportunity to state the position again.
で、2つの提案については、今英文ができておりませんけれども、皆さんのところに配布してありますので、それをご覧になっていただきながら質問を受けたいと思います。
So, in regard to the actual proposals that we have made, I have distributed them to you. Unfortunately, they have not been translated in English. They're only available in Japanese. But I hope you will look through them, and then we would like to respond to any questions that you might have. Thank you.
一言付け加えたいんですけども、I want to say something in addition to what Mr. Lim said. Why Japan is negative to this idea of establishing AIIB taken by the China is the Japan is very strongly supportive of ADB, Asian Development Bank, which is located in Manila. When ADB's idea was established in ECAFE, at that time, now ESCAP, I was working in ESCAP. ECAFE at that time to establish ADB. Idea was taken by ECAFE at that time, United Nations Regional Commission in Asia. And Japan was opposing the establishment of ADB. But when ADB's idea is supported by many members of the Asian countries, Japan changed its position. Japan wanted to take headquarters of ADB and also president of ADB. I was very surprised. And I was shocked. Japan was much more responsible country, which is, which are working for the cooperation among Asian countries. But when the idea was established, proposed by ECAFE, then Japan opposed at the beginning. Then when it becoming the reality to establish that idea of ADB, Japan was very greedy to take both, and I was shocked. But eventually, as a balance, Manila took the headquarters of ADB, and Japan took, president of ADB. But in this case, China should be much more balanced. China wants to take, headquarters in Beijing, and also the president of AIIB. If China wants to take the presidency by Chinese, banker and others, in this case, I don't know, it internationally very sort of balanced. China should learn the lesson which Japan did in establishing ADB. So if China wants to a headquarters, this case, presidency should be by some other country, not necessarily Japan. And the ADB, Japan is still working very hard to establish, to strengthen the ADB. But ADB's capacity is not very enough, particularly in infrastructure construction. It costs a lot of money. Asian countries need a lot of investment to infrastructure. In this case, idea of establishing the bank like, AIIB is very sort of reasonable. In this case, Japan should understand this. ADB is not a monopoly of Japan, and AIIB should not be a monopoly of China. Then ADB and AIIB, if they cooperate together, then Asian countries should welcome this idea, the balancing the two banks together. And Sherman of United States Undersecretary said, if Asian countries and Asian several banks, ADB and the newer banks and others, could cooperate together, it should be good sort of project. So United States position is very balanced, and so Asian countries should learn a lot of lessons in Europe and others, and ADB should not be a monopoly of Japan, and more balanced, multilateral, and China should not monopolize the new bank by Chinese authority. That's what I want to say.
Okay, we'll take questions. Perhaps I could just ask one very quick question to start, which is, you've had contact with the Gaimusho and with the Zaimusho, you've had contact with the ministries. What is your impression so far, that the Japanese ministries are now becoming more sympathetic to the idea of Japan joining?
はい、私の方から最初に質問させていただきます。すでに財務省、外務省、省庁とある程度コンタクトを取られたかと思います、この件につきまして、反応はいかがでございますでしょうか。少し前向きになってきているような雰囲気を、印象を受けておりますでしょうか。
But I think, not our sort of effort. Yesterday I met, the finance ministry is a very important person dealing with international affairs, and also Gaimusho we visited. And the newspaper today, I think I found the Japanese government attitude becomes much more positive. So I don't think it's our sort of pressure, but naturally, it is quite natural when the United States and the European countries are supportive of newer China's initiative, and Japan is asking, China is asking Japan to help assist the bank, and not necessarily UK and others, but UK is supportive. In this case, very strange, the neighboring country, because China is now number 2 in terms of size of GDP. Japan is 3rd, United States is first. But 2nd and 3rd countries, if Japan totally neglect this China's initiative, worldwide the sort of opinion against Japan is becoming much worse. So in this case, politically, and Japan should take a much more positive. Then Japan's position, not vis-a-vis China, worldwide, becomes much more reliable and trusted.
Okay, working press, Pierre.
ちょっと付け
May he make a comment as well? はい。
財務省の方でですね、財務省で今日のこの、外国に記者クラブでこう発表すると、ことを話しましたら、タイムリーですねと言われました。
I just would like to add one comment is that when we spoke with the Ministry of Finance official and we told him that we were going to be speaking at the press club here today, he said, it's a very timely press conference.
Thank you very much for that timely conference.
Pierre.
Pio D'Emilia from Italy, Sky TG24. As Anthony mentioned, Italy is already officially part of this, although we are not very rich, so it's just a political support. Don't expect much money from Italy. As you properly pointed out, this is not an economic or financial issue. This is a political issue. A very strong political issue. You mentioned your wish that Japan and China and Korea could establish a relationship like we did in Europe. But as you know, this happened in Europe already 40 years ago, after just 10 years, even less from the war. We had very wise leader at the time, Adenauer, de Gaulle, de Gasperi of Italy, that established the EU concept, and after less than 10 years, every wound was already solved. We can't tell this for Asia, unfortunately, and this, in my very humble opinion, depends pretty much from Japan, especially from the present leaders of Japan. Now, how could you expect that a person like Abe, that is still warmongering, belligerently denying evidence and everything, and supporting revanchism all over his country, could possibly, change their opinion and join a financial institution that politically states the leadership of China? Because this is the first time that China is going to lead a financial institution, not over Japan, but over the United States. Okay, this is now the two questions. First, do you believe and do you support the idea of Japan joining AIIB before and or without the United States? Because this would be a historical point. And secondly, I believe that the people you met at the finance minister yesterday did spoke with Azo, because I saw a few minutes ago a wire agency with the declaration, with statement by Azo, the finance minister, that says that Japan could join AIIB provided that the issue of governance are solved. Now, in your opinion, what would these issues concretely come out? I mean, we can't expect that China gives the presidency to Japan, of course. So what would be, in your opinion, the basic workable condition of governance under which Japan could join?
I think it's a very good question. Sorry.
はい、すみません。イタリアのものでございます。イタリアのお話が先ほど出たわけでございます。イタリアもこれに参加を表明しているわけなんでございますが、正直申しまして、政治的なサポート、参加というようなことがメインだと思いますので、あんまりその資金を期待できない国ではないかと思っております。しかしながら先ほどのお話を聞いておりますと、今回のその AIIB のこの件といいますのは、経済的あるいは金融的な課題というより、その政治的な課題であるという、そういうような面があるかと思うんでございます。そしてまた日本、中国、そしてまた韓国の関係が改善することを期待されるというところに両先生がおっしゃったわけでございます。ドイツ、ヨーロッパでの諸国でのようなこのいい関係を目指しているということなんでございますが、ただそのヨーロッパのその良い関係といいますの、諸国の良い関係といいますのは40年以上前にもうすでに出来上がっているわけでございます。戦後10年以内にEU の概念がその聡明なリーダーがもう打ち出しているわけでございますので、残念ながらそういうようなその背景というのはこの地域にはなかったわけでございます。で、私の勝手な懸念その意見なんでございますが、その主な理由そのこの地域にそのような良好な関係ができなかった主な理由というのはその日本のリーダーにあったのではないかというふうにあります。ですので、特にその今安倍首相は非常にその歴史に関しましていろんな発言をしているわけでございます。いろんな証拠を否定したりとか、いろんなことがあるわけでございますので、今回はその金融的なその銀行という組織に加盟するかしないかという話なんでございますが、やはり明らかにこの新しい組織のそのリーダーシップは中国側にあるわけでございます。そういう銀行に本当に安倍首相がそれに入ることを認めるというふうに思いますでしょうか。2つの具体的な質問でございます。その AIIB にぜひ参加してもらいたい、加盟してもらいたいというお話をされているのでございますが、これは米国が参加を表明するかしないかは別としてということでございますでしょうか。まだ参加しない前にでも表明してもいい、あるいは最終的に参加しないと言ったとしましても日本は参加すべきだと思いますでしょうか。そしてコメントでもあるのでございますが、先ほど 昨日、財務省の方とお話しされたということでございますが、きっとそのお話しされたことが効果が出たのではないかと思いますが、数分前に通信、なんか社のニュースを見たんでございますが、麻生大臣が日本もこの AIIB に参加する可能性があるというふうに発言されたそうでございます。ただし、そのガバナンスの問題が明確にクリアすればということでございます。そのガバナンスについてでございますが、具体的にどういうことをこの銀行から期待されますのでしょうか。
私から答えますと、I'm sorry, I should speak in English.
Preferably in English.
Yes. In this case, yesterday I met, finance ministries, the person in charge of this problem. Quite honestly, he said about the governance and others, and also in foreign office, we had the same sort of discussion. Governance and transparency and so on. And I'm sure that China is learning a lot. But when I was in OECD, as I said, China invited a lot of top economists from the United States, Nobel Economic Prize winner, Mr. Norman and others, and particularly People's Bank studied a lot from OECD experience. And in this case, governance and transparency and others is a problem still we are asking the China, this bank should learn a lot to improve transparency and as banking management. And in this case, the committee which going to establish, before establish AIIB, the committee will start working within this year. In this case, the committee itself, if Japan want to make this new China's bank, from the point of governance and transparency and so on, Japan should join the committee and say, quite frankly, to China, the authority, that governance and transparency and so on, these technical issues should be, developed and elaborated through this committee's discussion. And naturally, United States also will join that committee, and UK and others. So it's a good chance for Japan to join and say what Japan need, what Japan want in this new bank, which is taken by China. This is the initiative Japan should take. So not opposing, now we cannot oppose it. Other countries are supportive. If Japan opposes it, politically, it is a terribly stupid idea, stupid position. And I don't think Japan, as far as I know, Foreign Office and the finance ministries, official persons whom we met yesterday, I don't think they can going to take a very stupid attitude on this issue. They are doing much more positive issue, as Mr. Lin said in this newspaper today. It's already shows that they are taking much more flexible and positive issue, positive attitude.
はい。ちょっと補足します。ただいまの記者のこの政治的な面ですね。確かに今回我々が財務省に行った時もですね、この参加の問題については、外務省などとも一緒になって大きな土俵で考える必要があると言っておりました。ただ経済的な問題ばかりではなくてですね。ですからこれは麻生さんじゃなくて安倍首相が決断すればもちろんこれは政治的な決断となると思います。ただ経済的な問題ばかりではなくてね。で私は今政治的にも安倍さんが決断するいい時期に来ているんじゃないかと先ほど言ったアメリカのシャーマンさんの発言講演などから見てですね。もう一点松さん。
So, in regard to your question about this being a political issue or the political dimension of the AIIB issue, when we spoke with the ministry officials at both Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they pointed out that this was something that could not be considered simply an economic issue, but it did have diplomatic and political ramifications. And as you know, the final decision as to whether or not Japan would join would probably rest with Prime Minister Abe. He would have to make a decision, and again, it would not just simply be an economic decision, but a political decision. But as I've been saying repeatedly, this is, I think, just the perfect timing for Mr. Abe to be able to make such a political decision, in part because of Ms. Sherman's speech in February.
それから私が中国の、ブレーンたちとのこの交流ですね、中国は基本原則として域内から域外へというふうに考えておりました。つまり域内、先進国では日本がまず入ってほしかった。それから域外、ヨーロッパとかアメリカですね。それが今逆になってしまって、私は大変残念に思うんですけども、中国も基本的にはこれはアジアインフラ投資銀行だからまずアジアの国がっていうのが中国側の期待でした。しかしそれが今谷口先生が先ほどからも言われましたけれども、今イタリアの記者の方も言われたように政治的な原因でですね、遅れてしまったことを大変残念に思います。
Also, the other point that I would like to make is that I've been speaking with many persons who are considered the brains behind this idea in China, and they had told me from the very beginning that the fundamental thinking on the part of the Chinese about the establishment of the AIIB was that, first of all, they wanted to have the founding members be people from or countries from this region, and then they wanted to expand their activities and include nations from other parts of the world. In other words, the first partner they wanted to join this bank was Japan. However, and then after that, they wanted to extend invitations to the United States and European nations, etc. But as has been mentioned, and as you all know, the process has been exactly the opposite of what China had wanted. In other words, members of the United States government and European nations have already expressed their desire to join, whereas Japan, China's closest neighbor and the partner that China first wanted to have join, it has not yet made its intentions clear. After all, this is the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. They wanted, first of all, to have many Asian founding members. This is something that is very, very sad.
Okay. Well, sorry, you've had one. Just.
Could we get from one of the two of the states answer whether Japan should join the bank without the United States, yes or no, in their opinion? And
そうですか。ちょっと私の質問にお答えしてお答えしてないと思うんでございます。一つは米国が入るか入らないかは別として、あるいはその米国を表明する前に日本が入るべきだというようなこと、あとガバナンスについて具体的に何をどのようなガバナンスのその条件というのを課したいんでございますでしょうか。
私は、アメリカが入らないうちに日本が入るべきだと思っています。それからガバナンスの問題はですね、中国側は入ってきて、そしてガバナンスのことを相談しましょうって言ってるんですよね。でガバナンスがはっきりしないからっていう、まだはっきりしてないのは当然です。まだ決まってないんですから、これからそのガバナンスをこれから討論しましょうって言ってるんです。だから私は日本の言ってるガバナンスがはっきりしないから透明性がないからって、これはちょっと、おかしいと思うんですね、こういう点。
Okay, I personally feel that regardless of whether the United States makes a decision on joining or not, I think Japan should go ahead immediately and express its desire to join the AIIB. And secondly, in regard to this governance issue, the Chinese side has said from the very beginning that what they want is the Japanese and other people, other countries, to join in at the planning stage, and then at that point start discussing governance issues. So I think the argument that the Japanese side is using, that because there are things about governance that are not yet clear, matters of transparency that are not made clear, we are hesitating from joining. I think that kind of rationale is slightly strange, because the Chinese are saying we want to discuss governance after we all come to the table.
But I think your question is very, very sensitive one for me. But normally, Japanese general sort of response on this issue is if United States join or United States supported us, maybe it's a good chance for Japan to join easily. But in this case, in order to show the independence of Japanese position vis-a-vis Asian countries, Japan should take initiative, not depending upon the support or advice of the United States. It's a very shameful if Japan always follows United States advice, even on this issue, monetary issue. Why? It's not a security issue. It's a separate from security issue. On this purely economic matter, monetary issue, Japan should take initiative without thinking of whether U.S. support or not. But already U.S. Sherman Undersecretary supported this idea. Then if Japan moves, it's already a little bit diplomatically shameful, but still not too late. And we should join the committee first.
Of course, we all remember the experience with the Asian Monetary Fund, but however, let's not dwell on that. Right, next question, please. Yes.
次の質問に移ります。ちょっとごめんなさい。できるだけウィスパリングでお答えをさせていただきます。できるだけ質問をウィスパリングでお時間をいただきます。
Siegfried Knittel, freelancer from Germany. If this AIIB is founded, what kind of function will the ADB have? Is there a kind? I think perhaps it's not necessary to have two kind of development banks for Asia. And in the long run, I think because China is stronger now and it's getting more stronger than Japan, I think the future of the ADB will not a good future. So would it not be a good thing to make a merger between the ADB and the AIIB?
Okay. Are you addressing that to one of the particular of the speakers? Okay. Well, Taniguchi-san, do you want to?
Yes. But that is a problem. But ADB is not enough. Asian infrastructure, construction infrastructure needs a lot of money. And ADB's capacity, the monetary capacity, is not enough. For that reason, China has a lot of foreign resources, monetary resources. In this case, to utilize China's money, well, China's proposal is about infrastructure, new bank need, is it 1000
1000億ドル。
1000億ドル。
アジアインフラ投資銀行1000億ドルで、当面は500億ドル。
500億ね。So in this case, Japan, ADB cannot afford that. So 1000億ドル。
1000億ドルだよね。ADB はもっと多いです、今のところは。でも将来もっと増えます。将来もっと増えますからね。
So in this case, Sherman, the United States Undersecretary said, maybe multilateral banks, in the case of Asia, cannot. Maybe multilateral banks, when it is well coordinated, it is not sort of dangerous. So in this case, cooperation and coordination among several banks in Asia can be permissible, what the Sherman said. But, infrastructure costs a lot of money. And when I visited China, China's former ambassador to Paris said Japan and China should cooperate to assist the ASEAN infrastructure construction. In this case, Japan was doing independently. China is also doing independently. So in this case, it's a waste of resources if China and Japan can cooperate to assist the infrastructure construction of ASEAN countries. That was much better for ASEAN and also bilateral relationship China and Japan. So this new idea of a bank can accomplish this multilateral cooperation to strengthen the infrastructure construction in Asia.
中国が、アジアインフラ投資銀行やそれから、その他の開発銀行を提起しました。それによってアメリカとかあるいは日本が反発して、これは既存の国際金融組織に対する挑戦だというふうに、捉えました。中国はそれを否定 しましたけれども、中国はやはり自分が主体となってアジアインフラ投資銀行をやると、欧米、日がですね、参加しなくてもと、そうすると一種の、対立のですね、そういう、これが一つの可能性だったんです。今もないとは言いませんけれども、これが一つの可能性。
In regard to China, as you know, some years ago, it made a proposal that it was going to create several development banks, one of them being the AIIB. And when these announcements were made, these proposals were made, the United States, Japan, other countries basically reacted negatively to this. They considered China's new proposals for these new development banks to be a challenge against existing financial institutions. China denied that this was the case. However, China was determined to proceed with its initiatives and said that it would go ahead and establish the first bank, which was the AIIB, even if it could not get the participation of Japan, the United States, and other nations. In other words, there was a possibility at one point in time that the AIIB could be created, and there could have been a conflicting or adversarial relationship between AIIB and the existing financial institutions.
2つ目の可能性は、中国は新しい金融組織みたいなのを作る。しかも既存の金融組織とですね、コンタクトを取って、そして、2つが平行線でいく、これが2つの可能性です。
平行線って？
平行線。いや、話し合いしつつ、協力しつつ。
And the second possibility that was on the horizon was that there would not be an adversarial relationship between this AIIB and the existing financial institutions, but that they could exist in parallel with each other. In other words, they could contact each other, exchange information and ideas, have some kind of communication.
3つ目の可能性は、今回のこれが契機となって既存の国際金融組織の改革が進む、そうすると必要になくなってくる可能性もあると私は思います。
The third possibility, and I think this is the possibility that we are beginning to see now on the horizon, is that the establishment of the AIIB could serve as an impetus for bringing about reform in the existing financial institutions, these huge international development banks, etc. And that according to the results of these reforms, it might turn out that some of these institutions could eventually be considered to be no longer necessary.
そして今私は第一の可能性がほとんどなくなって、第二の平行線である程度いって、そして、また一つの国際的な金融システムとより、バージョンアップした、そういう可能性があると思います。で、今の質問なんですけれども、アジア開発銀行とアジアインフラ投資銀行は第二のその平行線でいって、そして徐々に一体化していく、それを吸収というか、それとも、なんですか、合併というか、その辺はその見方によって違いますけれども、基本的には一体化するのが、将来行くべき道じゃないかというふうに思います。
And so in regard to those three possibilities, the first possibility where there was an adversarial relationship, I think that possibility has disappeared. The second and third possibilities, however, the fact that they would either exist in parallel and exchange information, or the third possibility where they would become quite actually even closer, perhaps, as a result of different reforms being seen in the existing financial institutions. In fact, that third possibility could even lead to the integration or the disappearance of some of these banks. I think those two possibilities are still very much possible. And more specifically in regard to your question about the ADB and the AIIB, I think that in the future, future, I think it is very, very possible that they eventually could become closer and closer in their activities and in their relationship, and eventually they could become one, unified in some way. The word that would be used is, I don't know if one would be absorbed by the other or whether it would be a merger. It depends on your point of view, how you would view this coming together. But I think that in the future, that would be the best and probably most rational way to proceed, that these two entities could eventually come together.
Okay. I have a question, but before I ask it, I want to see whether other people have a question. Any more questions immediately from the audience? If not, I would like to ask you, this is not purely a political matter, neither is it purely between Japan and China. There are 31 countries involved, and all of those countries, to my knowledge, all have reservations about what they think is China's standard of governance and transparency, which is fundamentally different from that of other countries. So my question really mainly to Mr. Ling is, how flexible do you think China is prepared to be on questions of governance and in terms of capital structure, in terms of voting shares, in terms of transparency? There are all kinds of details one can go into, but essentially, is China prepared to significantly give ground to other countries so that they find it more easy to join the AIIB?
今質問はですね、これは私もですね、今後の成り行きについてはっきりした回答はもちろん持ち合わせておりません。しかし中国としてはですね、内部にもいろいろな意見があります。で、当局、つまりオーソリティの方はですね、基本的にそういう柔軟に対応していく、今柔軟に対応できるかという質問ですけども、柔軟に対応していくと言っておりますし、そういかざるを得ない、もし本当に国際的なその金融機関にするためにはね。ただし、今までのそのままを受け継ぐかというとそうではありません。イノベーションするって言ってるんですよ。つまり改革をすると言ってるんですね。ですから、今の既存の金融組織の全体の仕組みをですね、いいところは継承する、問題点もあると言ってるんです。その問題点、特に発展途上国から見たら問題点があると、そこは是正する。でその辺のところで、今イギリスとかフランスとかが入ってきた場合に、日本が入った場合に当然議論されることになると思います。そういう議論というのは必要ですし、これは新しいあるいは改革をされたその国際的な金融組織をする上で必要だと思うんですね。これ前向きに、評価すべきだというふうに思います。
So I cannot respond immediately at this point to your question because it depends on how things proceed in the future. Having said that, however, I know that within China there are many, many different opinions about this issue. However, when I speak with the authorities are saying publicly that they do want to be flexible on this issue, which I think is the heart of your question. How much will they respond to the concerns and anxieties of other participating nations? And I think not only is it that the authorities are saying that they are prepared to be flexible, but I think that if they truly want to create this kind of an international organization, they will have no choice but to be flexible and to be accommodating. At the same time, however, the Chinese authorities are being very, very clear that they did not simply want to create another financial international institution that is exactly the same as other existing ones. They are saying that they are not just going to follow in the footsteps, but they want to pursue innovation and reform. In other words, they would like to look at the existing international organizations and take the good points, but discard the bad. And they think that in regard to the existing financial international organizations, there are many problems that exist. And from the point of view, especially of developing countries, these problems are quite serious. So this is what they would like to correct. But again, this all has to be debated. And at the debating table, there need to be people from Japan, from European nations, etc. And in order to have a truly new and better international organization be developed, you need this kind of debate. So I think this process that we are going to be embarking on soon, I think should be viewed in a very positive light.
One thing which I would like to add. My experience in the United Nations, always China wanted to increase the quota in the World Bank and also IMF International Monetary Fund. The Bretton Woods system is unfair to some emerging economies. The quota in IMF and World Bank, even if China's economy is expanding and GNP, in terms of GNP, China is becoming second, but yet United States major contribution to IMF and World Bank. In Bretton system, they are United States keeping 17% or more, but China wanted to increase it, but still 6 or 7%. It's maybe increasing a little bit. Japan as well, we are, treated badly in the Bretton Woods system. In the United Nations, Japan's contribution is next to the United States. And we are eager to contribute at the beginning. When the United States contribution to 25%, Japan was almost nearly the same as the United States. But now Japan realized that even if Japan contribute to the United Nations, one country, one vote, and we cannot do anything more than that. IMF Bretton system, even if Japanese economy was expanding, yet Japanese, allocation of a vote was controlled. And it's unfair, that I thought. China was challenging that. But China is very smart in establishing this AIIB. If they want to challenge Bretton system, United States will oppose it. So China is diplomatically very smart. Now, China tried to escape from the criticism that China before wanted to change the Bretton system quota system. China is not saying this. It's not a challenge to the Bretton system. So new China's idea is not challenging the Washington's controlling IMF and World Bank system. So it's very skillful and smart. And in order to get the support from the United States and other developed economies, China's position is politically doing very well. So some of them, they feel that China's challenge is establishing this new bank is behind the scene. There is some, diplomatically skillful challenge, not official challenge under the ground to change the present world monetary system slightly, step by step. That is a very smart way of Asian way, diplomatically very skillful Asian way. That's what I felt based on my experience in the United Nations and in OECD.
Fascinating. I think we've got time for just one more question because we are...
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me.
今、谷口先生からこのチャレンジということ、中国は既存の金融措置に対するチャレンジはないと言っています。その意味のチャレンジはですね、対立するチャレンジじゃないという意味ですね。しかし今、谷口先生の言ったチャレンジとはつまり改革を促進するという、そういう意味で捉えると確かに一つのチャレンジでしょうね。チャレンジをどういう理解するかという問題です。それからもう一つ私付け加えたいのは、今世界の金融組織がマネーゲームに陥る、そういう教訓を組みましたね。で、中国が今余剰資金をどうやって使うかということについてインフラ投資に使おうと決心したということはですね、実体経済を良くしようというところがそこに根本にあるわけです。ですからいかにして世界の経済を実体経済を良くするという方向に持っていくかという意味においては、今どちらかというとマネーゲームに陥りつつある世界の金融体制に対するチャレンジであるといえば、私はチャレンジと言えると思います。
Mr. Taniguchi used the word challenge, and so I wanted to talk about two thoughts that occurred to me in regard to the word challenge. Challenge can sometimes seem to be a word that denotes or connotates conflict or adversarial positions. When Mr. Taniguchi talks about China establishing this bank as a way to sort of challenge existing financial international institutions, I would like to explain that what China is trying to do is not trying to bring about conflict or trying to use the negative meaning of the word challenge, but rather they consider it challenging to try to implement reform to the existing financial institutions by creating something that is even better. That for them is a challenge. It's a positive meaning of the word challenge. And secondly, as you know, in the world of finance for the past few decades, perhaps, many financial institutions have focused on what we call the money game, pursuing different financial products, etc., for financial gain. China has now seen this booming economy. It is possessing surplus funds, and the question that faces it is what to do with these surplus funds. The fact that it has made the decision to create this bank and decide to invest that money not in financial products but in actual infrastructure, in other words, to make a contribution to the real economy, not simply the world of finance, I think it's something that is very positive and should be regarded in a very positive light. In other words, the Chinese are trying to think of a way to use their extra funds to somehow promote or enhance or increase the world's real economy. Of course, that is also a great and positive challenge.
Let's take one final question. Sorry, are you working press? Yes. Last question.
My name is Kondo from Weekly Gendai Kodansha. I'd like to ask Taniguchi-san, and do you think U.S. also join AIIB? And if yes, when they announce officially, do you think?
I think United States is, as I said, supportive of this new initiative taken by China, and but the United States is not an Asian country, so Asian Infrastructure Development Bank. But originally, Asian countries should be a major member. But ADB is, United States is a member of this ADB and other, developed economies. In this case, I think in order to be, from the point of, financial resources, I think U.S. is very important member. And United States, I hope, my personal view is United States should also, if U.S. want to join, the new bank should welcome the United States joining. When? I don't know, because it depends upon the United States sort of interest. But U.S. was taking initiative to support that before Japan, before United Kingdom and others. In this case, early joining, and from the beginning of establishing some rules, governance and others, U.S. experience is also necessary. China, for instance, People's Bank invited the American Nobel Economic Prize winner, Mr. Norman, to strengthen the capacity of People's Bank in Beijing. In this case, United States should be a good partner of this. So Asian countries should not oppose United States initiative, and U.S. supportive before Japan. So in this case, if United States joined first before Japan, what a shameful for Japan. What a shame.
Okay, it's an extremely interesting debate, and we could go on for hours, but unfortunately we can't because we're out of time. I think what we should do in the future is arrange more briefings on this subject, because there's an awful lot of people now want to know more about this issue. Well, I want to thank you both very much for coming along and explaining to us what this is all about. We normally give our speakers a one-year honorary membership, but I haven't been given these certificates at the moment, but you will be given a one-year honorary membership before you leave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. どうもありがとうございました。